Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the founder and chairman of Health Corps, one of the world's greatest doctors, Dr. Mehmet Oz.
Thank you. I have the great honor of introducing Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's going to be with us by video today. I do this with great gusto because I owe Arnold and his family three great debts. The first debt is actually to his father-in-law, Sergeant Schreiber. And you've heard about the Peace Corps several times today, but the Peace Corps inspired the Health Corps. Just like the Peace Corps took the energy of young college graduates and harnessed it in order to build dams in Botswana and many other great things all over the planet, we took that same energy and decided to put it in to the school systems of this country to teach kids about health. But the question is, why am I, a heart surgeon, someone trained to heal with steel, interested in something called the Health Corps? About 5 years ago, I was in my office taking care of patients, and I was called about a patient in the emergency room. She had blockages of the major arteries that feed her heart. And the heart's like a python. It twists in the chest, and it needs nutrition. It's very greedy to have energy. So when the arteries get blocked, you have to intervene. She needed open heart surgery, bypass surgery. What's special about doing a bypass surgery on a patient? We do several 100,000 a year. This young Latino woman was 25 years of age. And I realized that there's no way that I could be honest in talking to people of her generation and not tell them that for the first time in our recorded history, they probably had a shorter life expectancy than my generation. Unless we made an intervention. So I was very enthusiastic about this. I joined numerous government panels. There are all kinds of things that I thought we could do differently. And I realized, and this I think is essential for what ServiceNation stands for, that there is no legislative answer to how to fix that problem. In fact, the solution was with the kids themselves. So by taking young graduates of colleges, only a few years older than the high schoolers they're going to teach, they form a mentorship relationship, a young brother, a young sister that they adopt, and they do this to many kids within this school, all of a sudden finds that health is hip, it's cool, it's a little edgy, a little attitude to it. And then it becomes cool to be healthy. Because kids, and you all remember what it felt like, and many of you already are in that category like me, that it's a memory, albeit potentially fading. The reality is you feel immortal. And yet that is where the power was, because kids translate knowledge to action like that. And that's where we had the ability to make a difference. So we got these kids in there doing service learning tasks. Not only could they learn about health themselves, they could go into their parents' refrigerator and audit the fridge. They could be activists, opening up parks, making sure the gym stayed open on the weekend, of influencing how bodegas served food. And with the support of influential leaders, political leaders in this nation, realized it was good politics and good policy, we began to grow Health Corps. And that's the second big debt that I owe to Governor Schwarzenegger, because he was willing to honor us by putting us on the honor roll of service organizations and initiatives in California. That's a big deal for a small organization like Health Corps, because it gives you a lot of momentum. And I think reflects the importance of a meeting like this, where you get a lot of folks who have influence to say, hey, I'm behind you. Now, there are many in this country who are primarily concerned with the wealth of the nation. But you cannot have a wealthy nation without a healthy nation. It can't be done. Senator Clinton, one of the smartest people I have ever met, is absolutely right that we have to have affordable health care for all. But unfortunately, that doesn't give us the bounciness, the vitality that we need. That can only come from us as individuals. Tip O'Neill was right when he said all politics was local. But all health care is personal. Only we can do it. We can't wait for that to come from outside, which is why, especially in the arenas of health and all the things that it connotes, the wellness that we desire and seek, it's imperative that we have service organizations that can thrive and grow. Now, I think ServiceNation has it right. And why do they have the right prescription? They've got a government that they know plays a role, but it's playing a role primarily to provide insights into what's needed. You have the private sector. They provide insights as well, obviously, but they provide a perspective that's very different from what a government would offer. And of course, there are financial benefits to bringing the private sector in. And you bring that expertise in, it's smart money, and it works. And finally, you need an army, you need fuel. And that's the group that will ultimately make this whole process work. Those are the volunteers. That's why I think it's so imperative to make it the norm that you give back with service. Now, ServiceNation allows groups like Health Corps, and there are many that I speak for in this discussion to scale quickly. It allows us the power. Why? Because ServiceNation lights that serpentine path that often blocks our ability to find our goals when we're young initiatives. And when we finally grow and become larger, as Health Corps does, it's now in 7 states with over 50 schools, we begin quickly to gain momentum. But it's those early years where you need the help, which is why ServiceNation is so important. And that's why I with great honor and gusto, desire to sign this declaration. And that takes me to the third debt that I have to the governor of California. Whether I'm skiing with him down a slope or participating in summits or helping with a new initiative, he over and over again reemphasizes that, Mehmet, failure is not an option. The governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and I'm very sorry that I could not be with you here in this groundbreaking summit on service and volunteering. But you know something? We don't have a budget here in California. And it's been 3 months now, and I promised the people of California that I will not leave the state until we have a budget. Now, I know it's boring to watch a video, and so I'm sorry you don't have me there in person. That's what I wanted to do. So just hang in there for a few minutes, please. First, I want to just say thank you very much to Time Magazine and all the other generous sponsors and the organizers for their commitment to elevating service in America, and of course also for inviting me to speak here today. So thank you very much. And Maria and I, of course, we are all pumped up about being co-chairs of next year's National Conference on Service and Volunteering in a great city of San Francisco. And I know it will be a smashing success. And I hope you all will have a great time also in San Francisco and all over California. And I hope that you stay a long time because we need the money. Anyway, 40 years ago, if someone would have said to me that I would someday be carrying the torch or be like a crusader for service and volunteerism, and that I will be the happiest guy that I've ever been working for no salary like I'm doing right now as governor, I would have wondered what they were smoking. You see, I came to California with $20 in my pocket and with a gym bag filled of sweat clothes and big dreams. But none of them had anything to do with volunteerism or with service or anything like that. See, I was young, I was focused on me. Not because I was selfish, but just because I didn't grow up in a culture where anyone ever talked to us about giving something back or service. It was as foreign to me as the English language was. My goal was very simple. It was to develop the most perfect body, win Mr. Universe, be the most muscular man in the world, and then I would go and conquer Hollywood and make millions of dollars in movies and in business. And like I said, I was very focused, and I was very lucky also. So much luck that I achieved all of those dreams and much more. But I tell you one thing, my real luck began when I met Maria and her parents. Why? Because I was so inspired by America's first family of service. I mean, they talked every day about giving back and about service and about the Peace Corps and the Job Corps and all of those different things that Sergeant and Eunice were doing. And before I knew it, I was sucked into the whole thing. I started volunteering. I started giving something back. I started working with Special Olympians, and I started training with them and all this. See, the Special Olympics organization was started by my mother-in-law. I went there to pump them up. But you know something? They pumped me up. They pumped me up. I got so excited, and I felt so good every night when I came home that I said to myself, why do I feel so great? And Gandhi was absolutely right, that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Now, I wasn't making $1 million here, but I felt like $1 million. Oh, yes. Then I was motivated, of course, to do more, because as soon as you start doing this service stuff, all of a sudden you say, I like that. I like giving something back. And then all of a sudden you go from one thing to the next, and all of a sudden I became the chairman of the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports, and I traveled through all 50 states, talking to kids, getting them involved in fitness and in exercising, and to say, to stay away from drugs and alcohol and all those kind of things. Now, the next thing was I started after-school programs, because I realized that kids needed a positive alternative when they get out of school at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the parents weren't around, so here it was, they were hanging out on the streets. So I said, let's start after-school programs all over the country so that the kids have an alternative. And they really responded to me when I told them, say no to drugs, no to gangs, no to violence, and say yes to sports, say yes to education, and yes to life. Then came, of course, the ultimate chance, I tell you, to give service to millions of people. We had the election here. In 2003, I ran for governor, and guess what? I won. Only in America, I can tell you that. Now, being governor is without any doubt the greatest and the most challenging and most satisfying job that I've ever had. I absolutely love it, even in tough times like right now. To get up every morning and to think about, what can I do for these millions of people? How can I help the people of California? I tell you, that is a true blessing. But I realized also immediately, no matter, that this is a big, big job. And no matter how hard I worked or how smart I might be, I needed help. So I asked the people for the help. I said many times, there's a tremendous weight that we must lift off our state. Alone, I cannot do it, but together we can. So I rallied people up and I asked them for the help, and I tell you, the people pitched in. And Californians, just like the rest of the country, there are millions of people that already were serving, but millions of people are not. And they may not know exactly how to get involved in this whole thing. They may not know where to go and to serve. We are the most diverse state in the nation. And a lot of people are just like I was. Service was not part of the upbringing, which means that we have to reach out to them in new and creative ways and speak directly to our different communities, like the faith-based groups, or the African American community, the Latino community, the Asian community, and the list goes on and on and on. And we have to make it easier to volunteer. Because I tell you, I found that sometimes our own government gets in the way. I mean, you would think that we would welcome people wanting to donate their time and to spruce up some river banks or build a playground or plant some trees or clean a school on the weekend or something like that. But we had a law that made it impossible for people to volunteer on some projects because the unions insisted that they be paid for their work. Now, wait a minute. How do you volunteer and get paid for your work? The whole thing didn't make sense. Now, even there was no money and the work would have not gotten done unless it was done by volunteers, they still insisted that this law was kept. But then I started working on that. And in 2004, I signed legislation that allowed volunteers to work and to serve. And now we are fighting, of course, to make sure that legislation stays permanent. And here's a way to get more people involved, I tell you. Because this is the most important thing, is how do we get more people involved? All we have to do is to market and to promote service more effectively. Because for years, volunteering was seen as like women's work, or something only retired people do. But let me tell you something. This is not women's work. This is not retired people's work. This is America's work. And everyone has the duty to serve. Everyone. We have to bring service into the mainstream of our culture and make it a way of life. We have to teach it in our schools from the earliest age on. I mean, I tell you that Maria and I, we tell our kids all the time, yes, you can go out and make the millions of dollars, but you better have a spot in your resume also for service. Our great nation has blessed us all with freedom and unlimited opportunity and a chance to reach for the stars. Now we must give as much back to America as America has given us so that she can also reach for the stars. That is why last February I created the nation's first cabinet-level position on service and volunteering. And our new secretary, and I'm so proud of her, Karen Baker is her name. She's doing a fantastic job in raising our service profile and training new volunteers and getting everyone to work together. Service and volunteering have a seat at the table in California, just like other cabinet secretaries. It is wonderful. And we are putting together now all the nonprofit and the faith-based groups, the foundations and government and businesses, because we all know that that is the most powerful partnership that we can have. And since Karen took over, companies like Deloitte, Chevron, Disney, PG&E, Intel, just to name a few, have all called us and they have said, how can we help? Isn't that great? Which is, of course, great because government cannot do it all. We all know that. That's why we also created a California volunteer website that links volunteers with more than 40,000 service opportunities. And we've been training a 50,000 volunteer disaster corps. So that when we have a disaster, let's say a fire, or an earthquake or mudslide or flood, which, by the way, we happen to have a lot of them in California, we can unleash an army of volunteers and help our brave firefighters and first responders. Now, here's what we need to do. First of all, the next president of the United States should appoint a cabinet secretary to elevate service and volunteerism. And then every governor should appoint someone at the state level, just like we did in California. And let me congratulate Governor David Paterson for being the first governor to step out there and show true leadership in that area. Now imagine if all of the state cabinet secretaries worked together, how fantastic that would be. And if each state could also create a volunteer website just like we did here in this state. So let's get more creative. Let's talk about it. Let's value it more. Let's make service a way of life. Now in the end, let me just say congratulations to our two young after-school all-stars from San Jose, California. I tell you, these are fantastic youngsters. I mean, Robert Greenhalgh and Gina Gilson, they have been volunteers for many years and they've done an outstanding job. And I also want to say thank you very much for making this summit so great. You all have done such an outstanding job, and thank you also for making our world better. And let me give a special shout out to my amazing wife, Maria, for coming up with so many of these great ideas, for making service and volunteering such a powerful force. And of course, Maria and I, we are looking forward to seeing all of you next June in California. Now don't worry, I'll be back. But in the meantime, let's remember those immortal words from my father-in-law, Sergeant Shriver, who more than 40 years ago urged all Americans to serve. He said, serve your neighborhoods, serve your cities, serve the poor, and join others who serve. Serve, 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 for in the end, it is the servant that will save us all. Thank you.